At least I can.
Oh, okay, cool. Good to know. So that's a little bit about me. I graduated from SIU Carbondale with my undergraduate degree, and then went on to get a master's degree from Adler University, which is downtown. And I finished that in July. So anyway, enough about me and all this. So the game plan for today was to first, I'm going to normalize and destigmatize mental health in general, then explore various forms of support for mental health struggles, then provide you some steps that you can do today to get any help that you want and deserve. And then at the end, we'll stop recording and I'll answer any questions that you have. And then hopefully you'll walk away feeling more confident about seeking services for yourself. Now, you might not be able to read this. I can try and zoom in a little bit so you can see things a little. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So we're going to start with some like myths and things. So yes or no, people who seek psychotherapy are weak, mentally ill, or crazy? The answer is no. If you seek treatment, it's often viewed as resourcefulness. The average therapy client struggles with many of the same problems that we all struggle with on the regular. So that's relationships, self-doubt, confidence, that kind of thing. It's not always that people present with really severe like mental illnesses. It's a lot of people that go to therapy do it just as like a regular checkup with themselves, like a regular doctor. True or false? A counselor will run and tell my parents and guardians everything I say. False. Therapists have to abide by a strict code of ethics that is in place to protect your confidentiality, which I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a bit. Yes or no? Minors cannot seek therapy without the written consent of a parent or guardian. This one's kind of tricky. No. In Illinois, minors 12 years old and older can actually receive up to 8 90-minute sessions without parental consent or knowledge. The tricky part about that would just be that the minor would have to figure out like how to pay for it and that kind of thing. But other than that, the therapist doesn't have to tell your parents, basically, for at least 8 sessions, for up to 8 sessions, excuse me. True or false? Psychotherapists make clients feel immediately better after each session. That's false. It actually takes a lot of time. Clients are not cars and therapists are not mechanics. So clients are expected to be sort of actively engaged in their care. And the therapists are just there to kind of help them uncover things that they didn't, normally see. Let's see. What else? And again, like sometimes having a therapist to talk to can stir up some like not so great feelings. It's not always that you feel amazing right afterwards. Sometimes you do, but for the most part, we dig into some deep stuff and that can get kind of difficult sometimes. Yes or no? This is kind of along the same vein. Psychotherapy can solve problems in 1 or 2 sessions. The answer is no. The average session is around 50 to 60 minutes, and the first session is typically an intake and getting acquainted. And then, I have clients that I've seen for months. Sometimes people have the same therapist for years. And sometimes there's people that just have like one problem they want to work on. And then, you only work with them for like 10 sessions or something like that. It really just depends. And then to get to the heart of the problem, psychotherapy takes a lot of sessions over time, which is why it's important to find the right therapist for you. This next slide is sort of more about different types of treatment. I realized after I just looked at this that I don't have school counselors on there, but they are part of your support network. I think when I was making this presentation, I was thinking about what you all might need for like, after you're done with school or when school is out, like when you're out for the summer, like that sort of thing. I think that's kind of what I had in mind when I made this thing. So your school counselors care about you and they're part of your support network, but these are just sort of external options as well. Some of these you might have heard of. So there's like the 24/7 hotlines and chat rooms. The cool thing about those is they're anonymous. They're free. And usually they're specific to a certain presenting issue or struggle that people have. So that's kind of nice. And they're available 24/7, whereas, other mental health professionals not always are. So they're really good in terms of like when you're faced with like a crisis or something. And then you have hospitalization. Sometimes hospitals, you have to take in individuals who are a danger to themselves or other people. Sometimes they can start as a short-term hold, but extend or transfer to a different facility if the client or patient needs it. Medication, I skipped around a little bit, it looks like. Medication is often, used in combination with some sort of like psychotherapy, and they're offered in both inpatient and outpatient mental health settings. And in Illinois, only doctors and prescribing psychologists can prescribe medication. And typically you have to be around like 17 to 65 for those psychologists to prescribe you anything. So like I am not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I am just a therapist. I cannot prescribe medications. You have to have some sort of like medical training in order to do that, which makes sense, right? And then we have therapy apps over here. So you might have heard of like Talkspace, BetterHelp. I feel like there's another one out there, but I can't think of it. And those are kind of cool because they are pretty affordable. And, you don't have to physically show up in anybody's office. I can't remember which one of them, but they offer video sessions if you want to do video sessions. And usually you can do it like right from your phone. I think both, or a lot of the platforms offer texting, like in real time with a therapist if you have an issue. I don't know. It seems like a really good way to make therapy accessible for people. The difficulty would be if you wanted to meet with somebody in person and have that like one-on-one in the room sort of connection with somebody. That might be one of the downfalls of it. And then we go down to inpatient facilities or like residential treatments. Usually these are for people who require constant medical supervision, as well as people who have, relatively severe, long-term chronic symptoms that they need more assistance with beyond just like a once-a-week check-in, right? And then we come down here to outpatients, which is more of the focus of this presentation, because I think it is a little more common, and I've had the most teens ask for information about more outpatient care. So it's sort of when you physically, you kind of go to a setting at a certain day or a time to meet with your assigned therapist or counselor, right? And I say go to like that because right now with the pandemic, a lot of us are seeing clients virtually through Zoom or Google Meets or, our own platforms. But I think the cool part about this is you can you could even do group work virtually, which I love group work. It kind of gives you the chance to, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about that in a minute. But group work, you can do individual work, family work, a relationship work. And then people have all kinds of cool niches. Like there's equine therapy where the therapist works with horses and clients. It's really, really cool. Music therapy, play therapy, like there's all kinds of cool stuff. And a lot of that you'll find in outpatient settings. Also there are partial inpatient and outpatient programs that kind of combine the best of both worlds, but I forgot to include that on here, to be honest. But they do exist. Okay, so here's like the types of like that outpatient talk therapy that I was just talking about, because like I said, this is the work that I do, so I'm obviously most familiar with it, and I wouldn't want to misrepresent other areas that I don't work in, but this is the one that I do. So kind of some things to think about is, some therapists work specifically in like a tele or remote setting, and some work in person, and people like me are doing both right now in order to meet the needs of different clients and, different people's comfort around COVID. what else? And then there's the different types. So we call that like a modality. So is it a group where everyone meets and has similar diagnoses or struggles? Is it individual work where it's just you and the therapist? Is it family work where it's maybe you and a parent or guardian? Is it maybe you and a sibling, or you and your whole family, really? As a marriage and family therapist, this is the kind of stuff that's our like bread and butter. And then, relationship therapy, which is pretty self-explanatory, just, couples and different other relationship configurations, wanting to work through relationship problems. Oh, and then sort of the different settings. So we've got, private practice, community mental health agencies, school-based. Oh, there's the school-based people. And then like nonprofit agencies. And the difference with some of these is, typically insurance will only work with certain of these. Like you don't often see school-based therapists working with insurance. Usually they work under like a nonprofit agency or something like that, which is what I do when I'm at Holy Trinity. Or you see like community mental health agencies. They're pretty cool because oftentimes they offer sliding scale, which means if you tell them, hey, this is all I make, or this is all my parents make, so this is all we can afford to pay, the therapist will go, okay, then that's all you pay. They won't charge their full fees and things like that. So that's kind of nice. In private practice, you can get a little bit of both. Some private practices take sliding scale and some of them don't. And that can get kind of expensive. So it's kind of cool, I think, that we have different options for folks to take advantage of. And then within all of that, you also have specializations, which is what I kind of talked about before. So that is like I said before, like play therapy, music therapy. There's even finance therapy, if you think about it. Like people have real feelings about their money. And so there are therapists out there that are trained to work with those feelings and to work with those specific struggles. So, and you might not have any idea, like when you go to seek a therapist, like you might have no idea what specialization you want to, seek out. But once you start meeting with somebody, you'll kind of get the idea, like if they're going to be a good fit for you. And I talk about that here in a second too. Woo, okay, I'm doing great on time. Awesome. So then here are some of the steps that you would need to take in order to actually seek therapy for yourself, right? So number one, you're going to want to figure out what type of therapy you want. And by that, I mean, do you want to do individual work? Do you want to do family work? Do you want to work in, do you want to be a part of a group with other people who have had similar struggles as you? You can do a little bit of all depending on the therapist. And then how to pay for it is a big one. So are you going to use insurance? Do you know what insurance company you have? Do you know if your plan covers mental health services? Or if it's going to be a copay? All of those things. All you do is you just call the insurance company and ask them if this particular therapist is covered. And they should be able to tell you what else. Or self-pay. If you're not going to be using insurance, how much is it going to cost you out of your pocket? Like I said, some places offer sliding scale, which is nice. And so some people pay as low as, I think I've heard people pay like $30 sometimes for sessions, which is a great deal. It really just depends. But yeah, figuring out, kind of what you want for therapy and how you're going to pay for it, I think is a big sort of hurdle that kind of, it feels like an obstacle for some people, but once you get that figured out, you can kind of roll into the rest of it. So that would be exploring the different directories and websites. There are whole lists and lists of therapists, and you can search for them by your area. You can search for them. You can even find them on the insurance company websites sometimes. If you are using insurance. You can, if there's like a therapist who also blogs that has a license in your state, you could reach out and see if they have any openings. I know like a big one right now is TikTok. Like people are finding therapists on TikTok. And that's cool, but those people are filling up really, really fast because they're so popular. Oh, and I also wanted to add here that it's okay to seek therapists who have, certain traits that make you feel safer about opening up, right? So like if you only wanted to see a male identified therapist, there are literally filters on these directories and websites that let you search for only like male identified therapists. And that's totally okay because again, the goal is that you'll find someone that you want to talk to, that you feel safe opening up to. So they have some of those things on there, those little like identifiers and things that you can sift through. And some people don't care, and that's totally cool too. But some people do. They're really specific about who they feel safe with. And so I appreciate these directories because it lets you do that. Now, number 3. So after you find a couple people that you would be interested in working with, you definitely maybe reach out to them and ask them any questions that you have. Like, do they offer sliding scale? Like I said, do they, what would be the fee that you could expect to be charged? I think everyone should know how much this stuff costs them up front, before they get involved or get attached to a therapist and then find out it's too expensive for them, right? Do they offer a free phone consultation? Some practices will do that where you'll be able to set up like a 20-minute phone call and talk to a therapist and see like how they are as a person and if you jive with them. Do they offer in-person or telesessions? Yeah, there's a lot of questions that you can ask. Do they have experience working with people who have, X diagnosis that you might have? Or do they work with, you can look up, like, do they even work with teens, right? If they work only with senior citizens, and that's going to be a weird fit for you. But again, I'll show you the website and you can kind of see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these things. But, and then number 4, they have special legal documents that they have to to make sure that they're treating you ethically, and reassuring you about that confidentiality, which I don't actually know that I went through that. I'll have to try and remember to go back to that. And what else was I going to say? I left this pretty open-ended because, sometimes it does take more than one therapist, like you trying more than one therapist in order to find someone who actually fits like for you. That's totally normal. As therapists, we know we're not everybody's therapist. We know that not everyone is going to like the way we approach things, and it's totally cool because again, the point is that you find someone that you like, that you feel like can help you. So you should get to try out different people in order to do that. And the last thing, if it doesn't feel like a good fit, you can give them that feedback, or you can just find someone else, which is what I was just saying. Giving somebody feedback about why they're not a great fit for you is a really tough thing to do, but it can really benefit the relationship if it's someone you still really like, but they just maybe said something you didn't appreciate or something like that. Which goes into this one, how to know if it is a good fit. So after you've reached out and you've maybe scheduled an initial session or two, what feels like a good fit for you, right? So does this person, the therapist, feel trustworthy and likable? Sometimes, a therapist might challenge you a little bit or push back on some things, but overall you should still feel comfortable and like they're not judging you or shaming you, but more so like expanding your mind or your perspective on things. And I do have to say some like big things, like big red flags that would mean that they are not right for you. If you're hearing micro and macro aggressions, right? If they are judgy, or if they don't have their own personal boundaries and they're sharing all their personal stuff with you, like, that's your space, not theirs. And if they're giving you too much advice, if the session becomes too much about them, that's usually a red flag that like that person just probably isn't right for you because they're not able to focus on your care specifically. And let's see. My Psychology Today profile. Let's see if this thing will work. Nope. Okay. We're going to look up. All right, we'll do this in real time. Can you guys see what I'm doing?
Not yet. If you're doing something, I can't see it.
Okay, I know what I'll do. Okay, share this tab in.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, share the next tab.
Okay, so can we see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Psychology Today. This is one of the directories that I have. I have a listing on this one, and I don't have a listing on any of the other ones. But so let's pretend you wanted to find someone in your area, and let's pretend you lived over by where I practice, which should be listed on this. Okay, so there's a lot. You'll see there's a lot of people on here, y'all. A lot of women too, I might add. So there we go. There's one person. Oh, look, there I am. Okay, cool. This worked out lovely. So so this is my profile, but we'll get to that in a second. Also look over here to my left. You'll see there's like all kinds of, what insurance are you going to use? Again, you don't have to, but if you do know what your insurance is and you do want to use it, this is where you would sort of sort through and find professionals that take this insurance. This is, a section for different issues that you want to work through specifically. These are different diagnoses as well as just like regular, issues that people have in the day-to-day that you might want to work on. If you prefer, a therapist of different identities, look at all of these things here. And this one I think is kind of important for y'all because you would probably want someone who works with adolescents and teens, because that's like your age group. And so you'd probably want to find someone who fits that. And then these are the different types of therapy, or some even serve certain ethnicities, right? So I think that's very important. But anyway, so let's pretend we're going to click on me. You'll see, so here's my lovely face. And then this is the address of the practice that I work at, as well as my work phone number, an email if you wanted to email me. And then here is sort of a little bio about me, some of my specialties, and presenting issues, as well as ages that I like to work in. And you'll also see everyone on here should have a license number, which means that they are like, a licensed professional who's been through some training. I'm pre-licensed since I just graduated last year. And you can kind of see a little bit about their approach. My suggestion, though, would be to also look at any blogs that people have, and then you can get kind of a sense of what a therapist's like voice is, and how they feel about therapy and how their approach is. So if they have any blogs or, like I said, like TikTok or anything on social media, read through that stuff because that'll tell you a little bit about them before meeting them. And let's see, finally, remember that you are precious, loved, and worthy. This is one of my favorite TikTokers. He says that, and I think it's really important to remind you all that that is true. And last but not least, if anyone has any questions, we can go ahead and stop the recording. But I do have a link tree here for resources if anyone wants to take a QR scan of that. I have my link tree on there, and that has some different resources for crisis hotlines and all kinds of things. So I'm